Welcome to The Outsiders, my Colombian national team podcast about the Colombian national team for Colombians outside of Colombia who, like myself, are interested and want to know more. Or if you just, if you're not Colombian and you just want to follow the Colombian national team for this particular edition of the World Cup, you are more than welcome to join the conversation. And for me, the conversation is probably more valuable than a like or a subscribe and stuff like that. Just getting a conversation going, again, for me that'd be a whole lot more interesting to be honest. And today what I wanted to do is I wanted to have like a Group H breakdown of the teams Colombia's gonna face and some factors that I think are gonna be pretty important. So let's get right to it, because this is gonna be a very long fucking podcast and I don't want it to be too long. So I know after a while some people tune out, but how I mentioned before, this is going to be kind of ghetto. The production value isn't that great, but I'm not throwing myself under the bus, because I think the information that I'm about to talk about is very important and interesting, and hopefully it's interesting enough that you guys past that 10-minute mark, which would be really cool. That'd be cool, because I said a lot of information and stuff like that. So let's begin with the journey, Colombia's journey to Russia, not from the beginning, but to Russia from Italy, which is they've been training for the past 2 weeks in Italy in the AC Milan stadium and training ground. So they're gonna have about a 6-hour flight to Kazan, Russia, and that's where their hotel is, and it's the Kazan Downhill Ski Resort and Sports and Health Complex. Now, if you are a big fan and you want to get some stuff signed, the address for that is 422595 Savino, Russia, Tatarstan. So if you put that in your Google Maps and hit route, it'll take you directly there. And I know for myself, when I was in Chile, I got the chance to go see them, and that was a very good experience. And it's an experience I remember for the rest of my life, and I hold very close to my heart. So again, if you have the chance, it's 522595 Savino, and that's Savino, Russia, Tatarstan. And I don't know exactly what the security protocol is going to be, but when I saw them, there was a metal fence, and people were allowed to congregate around it. And when the team bus came, the players got out, they signed some stuff, they took some pictures. Everyone, was really happy, and I want that for people who are listening. If you have $100 or spend $100 to get the plane ticket to Kazan and meet the national team, it's a once in a lifetime experience. Now, they're training in the Svayaga shooting range, which is about 20 minutes away from their hotel, and the address for that is 1 Sedevaya Street, Vendenskaya Sloboda. Now, that's a tongue twister, so I'll spell it out. That's 1 Sadovaya VVENDEN SKAYA SLOBODA. And I think the best place for you to see them is most likely in their hotel. When they go training, I think they go there, they train, and they leave. They don't really leave time for meeting the fans and stuff like that. So again, once in a lifetime experience, go to the hotel, get your stuff signed. So like I mentioned earlier, they're going to be landing in Kazan at the Kazan International Airport. And one of the drawbacks is that the airport is 1 hour away from their hotel. Now, I'm going to be mentioning distances, and that's because I believe that's going to be a factor in this tournament, since Russia is just so fucking huge. Some teams are going to have to travel they have a lot of ground to cover, and some teams do not. Fortunately, Colombia is one of those teams, and I'll get to that later. But like I was mentioning, the Kazan International Airport is 1 hour away. And the funny thing about that is that the hotel is across the river, and the airport is on the other side. So Colombia has to go up the river, go through Kazan, and hopefully they have some police escort, because if there's some traffic, the time's gonna get longer. And so they have to go through the airport, through the city, head south along the river, and head towards the airport. Now, that's gonna be some added time. So like I said, it's a 1 hour drive from hotel to the airport, and then from the airport, the average flight to their games is an hour, and then from the airport to the stadium where they're going to be playing the games is another hour. So you have 3 hours where the players are going to be sitting down doing nothing, and that might prove, that might be the one thing that sets everyone back in this particular tournament, because like I said, the distances are so huge. So the first game is going to be in Sorensk, and they just got an international airport in 2017. Well, they had an airport and they were just upgraded in 2017, because if they didn't have that airport for this year, it would have been a 5.5 hour drive from Kazan to Sorensk, and no one has time for that. Like, that's a long time. So thankfully the plane's there, it takes 1 hour, so it's not a big deal there. After that, they play in Kazan, and I think for this particular game against Poland, Colombia is going to have an advantage, because like I was saying earlier, they have just about a 20 to 30 minute bus ride to the stadium, as Poland, they actually have to travel a great distance. So that might be a slight advantage that Colombia can have. They get there earlier, they're able to warm up, practice a whole lot more than Poland. And their last game is going to be in Samara, Russia, which, like I said, it's only a 1 hour plane ride away. I thought the time difference was going to be a huge factor for this particular tournament, but it's not, because most of the team, like I said, they've been practicing in the AC Milan institution for the last 2 weeks. So they've probably gotten used to the time change by now, and it doesn't really matter because most of them play in Europe anyways. Now, like I was saying earlier, Group H in distances traveled, in the whole group, Colombia actually travels the least, which is about 1,800 kilometers. Japan is about 4,000 kilometers. You have Senegal coming in at 5,500 kilometers, and Poland has to travel the most at 7,000 kilometers. So again, big distances that these teams have to travel, and like I said, that's going to be a factor. The more this tournament goes on, maybe once players get fatigued or injured, they're gonna have to be like, okay, now I have to travel for 3 hours, and it's gonna have to be some mental strength that's gonna have to be used by these players, because it's gonna probably get into their heads that they're gonna have to travel really long distances. All right, so I kind of wanted to break down the stadiums where they're gonna play at, and maybe have some little tidbits here and there, just so people know where the stadiums are and some cool things about them. The first stadium where Colombia is playing Japan is at the Mordovia Arena. It holds 44,000. Some people might find this stadium familiar because it's actually a copy of the stadium that was used for the South African World Cup opening and closing ceremonies. So that's, if someone's like, hey, I've seen that before, that's the reason why. Now, there's a Canadian connection here, and that's that the turf that was put on this particular stadium comes from Canada. That's right, from Canada. So I'm gonna have to do some vibes, some voodoo vibes here, and hopefully make some Japanese players fall or slip and give Colombia that slight edge over Japan, and we get a victory there, because I think it's gonna be a tough game. Standout games that are gonna also be played in this particular stadium, I would say Iran, Portugal, and Peru, Denmark. So Peru, Denmark, June 16th, Iran, Portugal, June 25th, and Panama, Tunisia, June 28th. Now, the average temperature for the day of the games is around 20 to 25 degrees. I think if you're Colombian proper, that's fucking cold. But if you're like myself and have lived in the northern part of the hemisphere for a while now, it's not that bad. 20, that's barbecue weather. You're probably gonna enjoy that. Anyways, and I think so will the players. Some of them have played in Europe for a long time, so 20 to 25 degrees is not really that big of a deal for them. The second game is going to be in the Kazan Arena, and some people might find this, especially some people might find this stadium familiar, especially for Portuguese or Chilean, because this is the stadium where Chile eliminated Portugal through penalties. And props to Chile, they made Messi cry and retire, and they made Ronaldo cry. And I know a lot of people are giving Chile some heat right now because it didn't make the World Cup, but I mean, if you followed Chile for a while, I mean, they played the 2014 World Cup, then they played the 2015 Copa America, then they played the 2016 Copa America, and then they played the 2017 Copa America. So they've just been constantly playing, and I think the reason they didn't make it is because the coaches that were there at the time didn't really give a shit, and they just rode the bus until the wheels fall off. and the wheels fell off at the end of the qualifying rounds for the South American qualifiers, and they didn't make it. And I credit that to the last two coaches that they had. Not gonna name any names because we all know who they are. So aguante Chile. To all my Chilean brothers and sisters, you guys are gonna come back 10 times as strong in next year's Copa America, and I'm already scared as a Colombian. I'm scared for that resurgence. But yeah, moving on. Standout games for this stadium that are gonna be played are France, Australia, June 16th, Iran versus Spain, the 20th, South Korea, Germany, the 27th, and then they get a round of 16 knockout game on the 30th, and then July 6th they get a quarterfinal game. So that's good that this stadium is being used a lot. The last game against Senegal is at the Cosmos Arena or the Samar Arena, whatever floats your boat, whatever you want to call it. And this particular arena holds 45,000 people, so big atmosphere. Hopefully it fills up, and this is one of the few stadiums that actually has a natural grass. Actually, I want to go back to the Kazan Arena because this particular arena has the largest outside screen in Europe. So if you don't have tickets for the game, go to the stadium anyways and just watch it outside because there's a huge fucking screen. It's huge. I remember the measurements, but you can see this thing from space. I think it was so fucking huge. But yeah, just go and watch it from outside. So again, the Cosmos Arena, 45,000 people can fit in there. One of the few places that has natural grass, and if you play soccer like myself, you know natural grass is so much better to play on. It's nice on your knees, and you're not scaring of falling and like peeling half your skin off your leg off. Standout games for this stadium is Costa Rica, Serbia, June 17th, Denmark, Australia, the 21st, and this is going to be a banger, Russia versus Uruguay on the 25th. So if you're a neutral, that's the game to watch on that day. Round of 16 on July 2nd, and the quarterfinal on July 7th. I kind of wanted to talk about the rankings. I know, for this type of tournament, it doesn't really matter, but there's just some nice information to go by just in case. And I have the FIFA ranking, which a lot of people don't trust, but because of that, I counter that with the ELO ranking, which some people understand it better and trust that a lot better. So for the FIFA ranking, Japan comes in at 69, giggle. Senegal is coming in at 27, Colombia's coming in at 16, and Poland at 9. And in the ELO ranking, Colombia and Poland kind of switch spots. Japan comes in at 46, Senegal at 27, Colombia at 9th, and Poland at number 19. Again, they switch spots. And like I mentioned, the ranking isn't really a big deal. It is a tournament where every game is a final, where every point counts, every goal counts, because no one wants to go home on a goal differential. And these guys are going to play every game until their knees fall off or their pieces of their bodies are everywhere. So I added the ranking just as a little side note and something interesting, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Now, analyzing Japan. Japan's first starting 11, the way they set up, it was a 4-1-4-1. In their most recent games, they set up in a 3-4-2-1. In the loss against Ghana, 2-0. They set up as a 4-2-3-1 in the loss against Switzerland, but they did win 4-2 recently, I think today. Yesterday, the 12th, and they set up a 4-2-3-1. Now, the coach when they started off was Vahid Halilhodzic, and that's a hard name, so I'm just gonna call him Vahid. And Vahid has a lot of experience outside of for a coach. He's played in League One, he's coached in League One. He played in League One from 98 to 05. He was the top goal scorer, and like I said, he coached in League One as well. And one of the things I've noticed about every coach that I've read into is that they all have, some of them have like a rag to riches type of story, or their life took a dark turn before they became national team coach. And for Vahid, he was actually wounded in a mortar attack in Mostar, Bosnia. So this guy is a hardened man. He knows, he's seen some things. So, man, he would have been a really good coach for Japan to have if they didn't fire him 1 month before the World Cup. That's right. Japan gave him his walking papers on April 28th, I think it was. And I don't know, that kind of sucks. That really put Japan off. And I guess, the latest results kind of show that. But in his place, Akira Nishino came in. And Akira Nishino doesn't really have that much outside of experience outside of Japan. He played in Japan his whole life, and from 78 to 1990, he played for Hitachi. A credit that could be given for his name is that he qualified Japan for the Olympics, and that was the first time they qualified in 28 years. And in that time, they beat Brazil. I think it was for the first time, and that chapter in his life is called The Miracle of Miami. Now, in 2008, he was coaching Gamba Osaka, and they won the AFC Champions League and finished third in Club World Cup. That's all good and dandy, except he hasn't been working since 2015. So he's been unemployed from 2015 all the way to 2018. They haven't been able to find any type of coaching credentials for him in those 3 years, and that's not really a good thing to find out about your head coach for the national team. So he's only been in charge in Japan for like a month or two, so that's not a lot. His assistant coach and right-hand man is Tagaramori Makato, and Makato was with him when they qualified for the Olympics. But outside of that, he doesn't really have a lot of experience coaching outside of Japan. The Japanese goalkeeper coach is Hamano Yukiya, and he's been with the team since 2013. So he's been there the longest out of all the coaches. So he could be, Akira could use him as a reference when asking about certain type of players. Now, for this particular game, the odds are in Colombia's favor, but if you kind of look into it a bit deeper, they might not be. Japan and Colombia played each other in the last World Cup, and I think Japan has studied Colombia extensively. So there's not going to be anything under Colombia's sleeve when it comes to Japan that's going to surprise them, because they've probably seen it before. And Perkamen isn't really the type to change tactics too drastically. Not only have they met in the national team level, but some of these players have met in the club level, with Atlético Nacional facing the Yoshida Antlers at the Club World Cup. So again, very familiar faces when these two teams face each other, and I think that's not going to be, that's not going to play well in Colombia's favor, especially Japan. If Japan goes up 1-0 very early, they're going to close up and they're going to frustrate Colombia by, playing the counter, playing super defensively and going on the counter. And if that happens, I think Colombia's going to struggle a lot. So I think for this particular game, my prediction, it's going to be a 1-1 tie or a 0-0 tie, and my most optimistic prediction is a 2-0 win for Colombia. Hopefully it's the 2-0 win, because like I said, you got to get all the 3 points for all these 3 games, and Colombia's done that before, so it's not something they can't do. Now, the next game is against Poland, and when Poland started their journey to the World Cup, their starting 11 stood out like this, or positioned themselves like this. It was a 4-2-3-1. And just recently, the last couple of games they played, it was a 3-4-3. And the game against Lithuania, it was a 4-2-3-1, and Poland, as we all know, won that 4-0. Now, the coach for Poland is Adam Nawalka, and he's played most of his career in Poland, except in '85, where he came to the United States of America, and he played for the Polish Eagles. And one of the crazy story about him is that one of the side jobs that he had to do while he was playing for the Polish Eagles was that he was trimming tree branches that were too close to power lines. So I mean, you have to have some balls of steel to grab something made out of metal, and then stick it close to a power line just to cut a branch. So this guy has to have some really big balls of steel. In the 90s, he went back to Poland. I think once the communism thing settled down, he became a car salesman. In 95, he got his coaching credentials, and his first coaching job, and I think that was his only coaching job at that time, was he coached a 3rd division team in Poland. And then in 2015, he was appointed to the national team coach, and that kind of surprised a lot of people. That was a bit controversial. But then in 2014, he kind of beat the world champions, I think 2 months after the World Cup. That's right, so he beat Germany 2-0, and then he led Poland to their first ever quarterfinals in the Euros, and those results pretty much solidified his position as first team manager in the national team. So props to Adam Nowalka, another rag to riches type of story, which is, from person to person, that's always good to see. His right hand man and assistant coach is Bogdan Zayak, and he's played his whole career again in Poland, and he played from 95 to 08. He actually has a pretty impressive player run, which is 12 years. Now that's a long time to play. Again, he's only had one appearance for Poland, and that was in 1998. Again, I think Colombia's coaching experience kind of trumps Poland's coaching experience, because I feel like Peckerman has been, and you know what? I'll get to that later. I'll talk to that later. But the goalkeeping coach for Poland is Juroslav Fox, and he played for Poland from 89 to 06, and he's actually been with the Poland national team since 2013. Man, goalkeeping coaches, their jobs are steady. I should have became a goalkeeping coach. You never get fired. For this particular game, the odds are in Poland's favor, very slightly. And I think that's because, when you look at Poland, you have Lewandowski, you got Glick, you got Pazdan, you got Linetti, and these are players that have been there for a long time. And Zio, sorry. And so, again, these are players that have been playing together for a while. And you know what? I want to talk about Glick, because he got injured, and they said that he was gonna play the last game in the group stage for Poland, but apparently he's made a miraculous recovery. And I just want to let people know there is no such thing as miraculous recovery in sports. They're either gonna pump him full of drugs and send him out. They're probably gonna pump him, not drugs because obviously he'll get banned, but they're probably gonna pump him with some sort of painkillers and send him out to play. Or he wasn't injured at all to begin with. So, let's see what happens, because if he plays through that injury, he might get re-injured, and it might be worse than the first one, and that's it for him for a very, very long time. So I think Glick is gonna, and he's like their go-to guy for defense. So if he re-injures himself and is out of the World Cup, that's gonna be a huge drawback for Poland. But like I was saying, Poland is a slight favorite over Colombia, but I think if you look at it a bit deeper, the coaching staff for Poland is not as experienced as the Colombian coaching staff. The Colombian players have been playing, again, probably just the same or longer than some of the Polish players. Some of the Colombian national team players have been playing together since 2012, so that's a huge amount of time to be together. And the only other team that matches that is Senegal, and I'll get to that eventually. One of the keynotes that I think that a lot of people are going to miss is that Poland played Chile, and the Chilean national team coach is Reinaldo Rueda, who is Colombian. And what Reinaldo Rueda did for Colombia in that game is that he set up Chile how Colombia would set up when they face Poland, and that gives Peckerman a chance to go back and study that particular game and see something familiar. So when Poland scored those 2 goals when Chile scored those 2 goals on Poland, that was Ronaldo Rueda telling Peckerman, this is how you score against Poland. And I'm pretty sure Peckerman got that message and will change some things to take advantage of that. Let's go take a quick drink. Now, my predictions for that game, I think Colombia's going to have a slight advantage again because of the distance that's being traveled, the experience, Ronaldo Rueda, showing some things, some weaknesses for Poland. So I think Colombia's going to edge out Poland. It's going to be a 1-0 win or a 2-1 win. My most conservative prediction is a 1-1 draw between both of them. And let's move on to Senegal. Now, I think Senegal is going to surprise a lot of people. And the reason I say that is because, when they first started out in their journey for the World Cup, Senegal positioned themselves in a 4-4-2, and in the last couple of games, even the 2-0 victory over South Korea, it's been the same formation, which is a 4-4-2, and that is credited to Aliou Cisse, who has been with this, not with the national team, the adult national team, but he's been with some of these particular players all the way since 2012. So let's dive into Aliou Cisse. Now, Aliou Cisse has a pretty diverse portfolio when it comes to a player. He played in Ligue 1, he played in the Premier League, and after his return to France, where he kind of finished off his career, He ended up playing in Senegal from 99 to 05. And again, one of the dark turns that all these coaches have. So for Cisse, the dark turn his life took was he lost several family members in the Le Jouel ferry disaster, which killed 1,800 people. So some people credit that loss of in his family to when he came back to England and actually, was way out of form, came back to training late, and that ended up forcing his coach to, asking for a trade, and then he had to go back to France and play in there. And like I said, he ended his career there. He started as an assistant coach and for the under 23 Senegal team in 2013. That same year, he became the main brain, the head coach for the Senegal under 23 team. And then in 2015, he took over the Senegalese national team. He became the head coach there. And he's been with these group of players, like I said, since 2013. So again, it's like the same players. Like the goalkeeper is the same. It's been Ndiaye, and so you got Ndiaye, you got Sis, you got Sar. There's I think Sao is still there. So you have the same players and the same coach doing the exact same thing. So I think this is the reason why I think Senegal is going to go very far in this particular tournament. And I think they're going to surprise people, especially teams that aren't giving them that type of credit. And I try to dive in deeper into the Senegalese coaching staff, but their website doesn't work. If you go on their website, it's like you click on a portfolio and then it takes you back to that same it's like an infinite loop. I guess they didn't pay, I don't know, their domain fees, and something happened. But that's it, man. And that could be in their favor because no one knows what they're gonna bring to the table. So Senegal is the dark horse in this particular group, but I think they're gonna surprise people, and they're definitely gonna surprise Poland, and definitely gonna surprise Japan. For this particular game, Colombia are a huge favorite, but like I said, if you go in deeper and you see for how long these players have been playing with each other, you can't really edge Colombia that much over them. So I think Senegal is gonna play. They have something to prove. They have something to play for. They've been at this project together for a very, very long time. I still kind of see Colombia, edging past them. I see either a 2-1 win or a 2-0 loss. So 2-0 win, and my most conservative prediction is a 1-1 tie. I think with that, before I go into Colombia, I'm probably gonna give out my Group H predictions. I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate, especially from the teams that are not gonna make it. But I see Colombia coming in first and Senegal second. I really think they're gonna play really well. They're gonna surprise Poland. They're gonna surprise Japan. They might surprise Colombia, but from the language Colombia's been using, I think they give credit to Senegal where credit is due, and the other teams aren't really giving Senegal that type of respect from the things I've been reading. So my Group H prediction, it's gonna be Colombia and then Senegal, and yeah, I'm sorry, Poland and Japan, but I think Senegal is gonna surprise a lot of people. So let's talk about Colombia, and if there's any Japanese national team fans or Polish fan or Senegalese fans who want to know about their team that their teams are going to face. And let's start with Colombia, because when they started their journey, when they faced Peru, they started with a 4-2-2 formation, 4-2-2-2 formation, and just recently against Australia they did a 4-2-2-2, and against Egypt they did a 4-2-3-1. The coach for Colombia, like I said, is Jose Ernesto Perkerman, and he played for Argentina Juniors from 70 to 74. Then the Colombian connection comes in because he played for Independiente Medellin from 74 to 77. A serious knee injury ended his career, and he actually had to support his family by driving a taxi in Medellin. Again, one of those stories where it's rags to riches. He got his coaching credentials. Then he was appointed to the under 20 Argentinian squad as their manager, and they won the South American Cup in 97 and 99. And then he won the Under 20 World Cup in 95, 97, and 2001. And he was appointed the Colombian national team coach in 2012. And as you all know, the rest is history. His right-hand man is Nestor Lorenzo, and he played from 85 to 97. He coached from 84 to 97. And he has 13 caps for Argentina. He played in the World Cup final for Italy in 1990. He has known Peckerman since 1984, and he was the assistant to Peckerman in the 2006 World Cup and those under 20 World Cup wins. Nestor Lorenzo, in his time in Argentina, he was known as the captain for their defense, and his responsibility in Colombia is the defensive players and the tactics they use defensively. So that's really good. You have one of the best defensive players from Argentina coaching some of the Colombian defensive players, and I think that kind of shows. But Colombia historically has always been known as a very solid defensive team. Their goalkeeping coach is Eduardo Niño, and he's been with Peckerman since 2012. Again, like I was saying, Colombia has the coaches, they have the experience, and they have the players to get really far in this tournament. But one of the drawbacks they do have at the current time is their ability to not score. And the last two games, it was a 0-0 tie against Egypt, 0-0 tie against Australia. And that's something they've been struggling with the last, for the past 2 years. And hopefully, if they want to get far, that has to change in this tournament, and they got to find a way to do it, because if in this particular tournament, if you go one up early, you get to dictate the tempo, and you force the other team out of their zone, and then when they come out, they have to expose their weaknesses and maybe get caught on a counter. And if Colombia gets, so if that happens to Colombia, I don't think they have the ability to tie up the game, or if they do, they're gonna have to struggle really, really hard. So hopefully Colombia scores first and takes advantage of what that means. So that is my Group H breakdown from the Colombian point of view. I hope everyone liked it. I hope there was a lot of interesting details and things that not a lot of people knew. And yeah, that's it. The next one I put out is probably gonna be before the Japan game and then after that Japan game, so it's gonna be like a pre and post. Hopefully the post one is really happy and we win. It's not a 1-1 tie like I was saying. Hopefully it's a 2-0 victory. That would put everyone in a good mood and in good spirits leading into the toughest one, which is gonna be Poland, and then the second hardest match for Colombia is probably gonna be Senegal after that. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you everyone for listening. Hopefully you listen to this while you are grinding your video games or running or a long commute to work. I should have probably said this in the beginning, but it's too late now. Maybe I'll type it out. Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you for listening, man. Hopefully it didn't sound too crunched together. I know I tried to make this less than an hour, just because I know like after 10 minutes, people like that Homer Simpson gif where his hair is just waving in the air. Hopefully everyone found it entertaining and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's it for me. Thank you for listening. The Outsiders, Colombian National Team podcast for Colombians who, like myself, are outside of Colombia. Thank you very much. Peace out.